Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the HP Source podcast. I'm Mike, the Crazy Pilgrim, and I'm on my own at the second. So my colleague Andy, who is going to be joining us, is having a few technical difficulties. So this is our first live. So thank you to everybody that's joining us on this, being streamed on the X platform. And I've put a few shout outs on others, like my TikTok account, invite people in. We are trying to build, obviously, on what we're doing here. It's pure unapologetic Argyle talk. We'll pick up on all the positives, negative viewpoints as well. We've had a lot happen over, I think it was about a week ago now that, obviously the Rooney rumour started to really gain traction. I've done a lot of content, myself, about being positive towards it. But there's some good and valid viewpoints on the negative side to it as well. So, what I'm going to do is, while I just sort of wait for Andy to join me, I'll just carry on. So the show must go on, as they say. So we're going to pick up on the Rooney appointment. Don't want to dwell too much on the initial part of that, but we'll pick up on the interview that he did. As well as the Simon Hallett interview, the interview today on TalkSport, which was quite interesting. A few viewpoints on that. And obviously, certainly not just Hallett's interview alone, but Mike Phelan's statement at the end of that. And we've also got, sort of a couple of player notes and comments to pick up on. And obviously, of course, we've got the new signing today. So, which, we were planning to go on this evening, try this new format out. We know it works well and it's engaging. So we're looking forward to bringing more of this to you. We've done a couple of spaces for those that haven't joined us before, and they've worked really well. But we know the sort of video side of things is very engaging. So there's a lot of other options out there for you all that we know about. The aim is not to clash with anybody. We want to bring our own show in our own style to you. So what I'm going to do is just bear with me a second. I have got the chat opening. So, evening, Kevin. Thank you for joining us. Kevin's a regular since we sort of started the HP Source podcast a few weeks ago. So we've got a YouTube account. We've got a Facebook page. So if you go onto our X profile, you'll see the link to the link tree that will give you all the links to those relevant pages. We ask you kindly to go and follow us on those. With YouTube, for those that don't know, when you get to 100 subs on there, you can then start to stream. So the plan will then be to link that live to YouTube as well. And the same with Facebook. So you've got to have a bit more of an established presence on Facebook as well. So we'll do that. And hopefully, we'll look at the TikTok side as well. So we can have a lot of people joining us for that. So I don't know what's happening with Andy, if he can hear me out there or whatever he's trying to do. So I'm just going to carry on. Like I said, the show must go on. So going to pick up a little bit with the initial, obviously, Rooney announcement, that happened over the weekend, officially, and then his interview. So Saturday, obviously, the club released that press statement on Rooney being appointed. I felt like they probably wanted to do that on the Monday, if not the Tuesday after the bank holiday weekend. But obviously, the noise around Rooney was quite strong. So they had to pick something out. Yeah, I mean, everybody was going out. I mean, Argyle are now globally for that weekend, and probably as we start to build and get into the season, are certainly going to be, the awareness is just going to be out there. It's big time. So what we're then sort of all stunned, I think we were all sort of, when Rooney came on the original radar, it was like, okay, who's putting bets on Rooney? He's suddenly appearing on the channel, and it's sort of like madness. So, but it happened, and it was announced, and there's a lot of fors and against it, and I get it. I posted positive comment. I think it's a massive curveball, potential big risk, as with any appointment really. But the sticking point on Rooney for everybody is just his record as a manager, and I think that is difficult to sort of ignore really. And, those that look at all the stats and stuff and say, look, his win rate was 20%. I think it was, it's not good. And you have to say to yourself, so, what made the club pick up and feel that Rooney was a good choice to go with. And, we'll never know. I mean, we know Rooney approached the club, but you'd like to think that, they did do their usual process of due diligence, which I'll touch upon in a minute. But effectively, he was one that was chosen at the end. So, and I think, if I sort of forward to Rooney's interview itself, I think, it was a great positive interview, but people will say, well, yeah, he's not going to say that. Oh, yeah, I've taken this because, sort of I'm twiddling my thumbs at home. I don't know what to do with myself. So at the end of the day, Rooney clearly, for me, came across that. The best way of pitting it is certain players fit certain clubs really well. And I think from an Argyle perspective, for those that aren't that are listening that aren't Argyle fans, it's one of those where, for me, things can connect. Whittaker is that perfect example of that. It didn't work at Swansea. Obviously, he had a stint at Derby, which when Wayne was manager. But at the end of the day, it works at Argyle. The signing today, Nethaneul, he referenced actually Whittaker when he was at Swansea. When I come on to that in a minute, and I don't know. It looks like Andy might be leaving me all on my Todd at the moment. So I'm just going to quickly scan the chat. So just to sort of see, I can't listen to a voice message while I'm live on air. So Andy, you'll have to message or just grab your phone and don't worry about your laptop. I reckon his missus has sent him off probably to do some chores. So yeah. So I think it's genuine. It's clearly the right sort of noise that Rooney was putting out there on that video. And it was good of the club to get that out as well, because it's good to sort of get the sort of good vibes going, I suppose. So for me, that interview was very, very good. And then as we're sort of quieting down for that evening, then suddenly the Hallett interview breaks from the club. A strange time to do it. They could have been running around. I think it's Charlie that does a lot of the media stuff, having to stitch and edit and get it all together, and probably couldn't get it out any earlier, because 9:30, I think it was, when it went out, was certainly a random time, that's for sure. So, but that was good. I think very transparent, really, really honest with the process. And, I'll touch upon that a bit more in a minute. And, sort of, it feel very, very confident. They felt unanimously when they did those interviews that Rooney was the right was the right candidate. So, so that, sort of digesting all these sort of two interviews on I can't even remember if it was Sunday or Monday now, but digesting these two interviews, I think it was Monday, but it was just really interesting. And I think what it did overall is, I noticed certainly on X that, a lot of fans sort of who were on the fence or weren't sure, sort of then were like, do you know what, actually, yeah, I'm sort of warming to it now. And that was good to see. But, regardless of it all, the Rooney decision is a big gamble. Right. I might have Andy in to join me now under his pseudonym of the Grumpy Loyal. So, Andy, just to check, can we hear you loud and clear?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So just about, I'm just going to turn up my speakers. So thank you for leaving me for the first sort of nearly 10 minutes.
Oh, mate, I tell you what, I don't know what's going on with the link, but the link wasn't going right for me, and I tried all sorts of things, but it wouldn't let me do it. Anyway, I'm here now, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me in. What's the discussion so far?
So Andy, just for all of you, Andy, who's running off his own TikTok characters, the Grumpy Loyal, to add a bit of humour to his to the Argyle news, I suppose, that's out there. So Andy will be and is a regular for us on here. He's obviously not been able to log in under his normal account, and his video's off, so you're just gonna have to look at me while you're on this session, folks, so apologies for that. So we're at the stage of the interview with Hallett now, Andy, and obviously being transparent, being really open, sort of dealing with the elephants in the room, which was the Jews nip and the Parkinson, and how much did they influence everything. But I felt overall, he gave a good account of himself, and at the end of the day, they had 4 people that they wilted it down for interview. 1 didn't turn up, and maybe we could assume that might have been a favourite of most people's, Liam Rossignol, which he certainly was one for me. But from that, then obviously they had 3 candidates, all interviewed. And the key thing that Hallett sort of saying that turned it for them was the personality test. I mean, their record is still important, and those that have really focused on that, it's very, very valid. But when they've dealt with the Foster situation, Andy, haven't they, of literally, although coming in at difficult circumstances, as we've all said on the Foster saga, and sorry, folks, I'll try not to bring his name up too often. This will probably be it. But you've got a complete swing of personalities. Foster, who just came in and literally just put a negative vibe across the club, didn't really interact and engage with fans, didn't connect whatsoever. And then you got Wayne Rooney, big name, massive global superstar, amazing player. And then he's going around the club, meeting everybody, saying to fans, when you see me in the cafe or restaurants, I like the fact how he kept pubs out of that. But you may see him down the Dolphin on the Barbican, who knows. But, and wanting to really embrace the club. So I can understand why they really like that side of it. But there is still that elephant in the room as well, isn't there, of his managerial record. But how did you sort of see that interview, Andy, from your side?
I thought he looked a bit. I thought Simon Hallett looked a little bit awkward there. He was put on the spot quite a lot by the guy Jordan. Yeah, it was a difficult one for him, but I think he sort of held himself quite well there. Did all right with that. Yeah, it's a fair bit of pressure, and he has to sort of back his manager in there, and he has to back his decision. And I'm guessing that Andrew Parkinson had a say in this as well. So I'm sort of guessing that he's having to back them as well. The connection with Nip, well, that's going to come into the room all the time because he was at Everton with him, wasn't he? Yeah, but I thought he did really well actually under the circumstances.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I think, for me, it's probably a good sort of lead into Hallett's interview on TalkSport today. I listened to it live, and then the lads involved in, including Andy and others involved in this. Carl Barnard is another one who can't join us because he's sunning it up with the family abroad. But sort of Simon explained their process, and I just want to take that whole interview on TalkSport into view here, and I'm just going to sort of stick up an overlay. So that was the interview with Jim White, and Simon Jordan, that aired. For those that haven't listened to it, if you watch it on one of their catch-ups, it was 12 o'clock that started. And all started off sort of well, but Simon Jordan's always got that sort of edge to him, and Simon Hallett explained his process, and what is clear, and he's never shied away from this, is Simon is absolutely data driven. I'm a data person myself as well. I do a lot of that in my day-to-day job, and so stats and filtering out and slicing and dicing data, that helps you make decisions. And the idea is then it helps you make informed decisions, but don't always obviously let the data always be the deciding factor. And so Simon's quite clear on that, isn't he, Andy? With that's how he runs a process, and he went through that, and then Simon Jordan just pretty much said, well, that's just ridiculous. And also, let's be honest, sort of, he was more interested in his mobile phone while Simon was explaining that than anything else. So you just felt that he had some sort of although Simon Jordan did say, one of my girlfriends was down in Plymouth, so I have an affinity with the city, and obviously we played against his club, etc. So there's that there. But just to literally just cut a fellow chairman off and go, yeah, that process is ridiculous. And, effectively, Simon said, even when he left the call, a guy on a 20% win rate record, put my teeth back in, wouldn't even make an interview stage. And Andy, I thought that point was interesting, because that's what a lot of people have been that are sort of not in the Rooney camp have been questioning. So what do you think really got Wayne Rooney into the interview stage, at least in London, let alone through the door on the phone or whatever to inquire in the first place? What's your thoughts on that?
Sorry, you're going to have to repeat the question, Mike. I was just doing something very. I'm trying to get.
So not only do you join me, not only does he join me late, folks, he's now not even paying attention on the pod. So the question was, what got, if Wayne Rooney's win rate is 20%? what got him, not just to interview stage, but what got him in the door for them to consider him. If you take Simon Jordan's point that he wouldn't have even got to interview stage, what do you think changed made a difference for the Argyle board?
He did this like personality test, didn't he? You might want to get rid of the audio sort of one, grumpy loyal. I'm on camera now, mate.
Oh yeah. Hang on then. I'm coming in. Hang on. Let me get you in.
Just dump one. Yeah, mate.
There we go. There we go. Yes, I'm not on my own, folks. Right, go on then, Andy.
I am real, you know, and I've been up all part today. Anyway, yeah. So the answer to the question, I just think he did this personality test, didn't he? Rooney did this personality test, and he came out on top of all the candidates that were sort of interviewed. I don't know who was interviewed. I have no idea who was interviewed.
No, but don't forget though that was at the interview stage. So my question is, what made Argyle go? Was it the celebrity style or not? But what got him to that stage? That's what Simon Jordan's saying is he wouldn't have even got probably through his phone, and booked in as a contender, let alone to interview.
I tend to sort of agree with what Jordan was saying about profile and stuff. And yes, he has got a profile. And you can't tell me that Argyle haven't got him on board without a profile, because he's amazingly, big on sort of online presence, all the Twitter stuff and all Twitter stuff, and all that. So he's got a global online presence. So I can sort of see that Argyle could have bought into that. I don't think they did. I don't know even where it all came from, because it was Heckenbottom, wasn't it? The man who was going to be in Netherlands, I was in charge, because it was all reported in the Telegraph. And the next thing we know, Wayne Rooney's in the odds. So there's got to be some sort of contact there. I would agree with him, with Jordan, about Dewsnip, the connection there at Everton. So that's got to come into it somewhere, mate.
Yeah, I think so. And that's what's really sort of got people concerned. It's regardless of if it's another Scouser, and no offense to any Scousers that are watching, and all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, it is who is the right candidate, isn't it? And I think that's the key thing. I felt, and I did say when I sort of did my initial summary, and we were talking about it on our WhatsApp group, that maybe Rooney came with an initial proposed plan, and that might have still have been the case. And that really got them intrigued, enough to sort of say, excuse me, let's put it on our list. Let's go and do some analysis on him. I would really like to think that it wasn't just the Rooney factor, that just got him, at least to an interview. Because if this all blows up, then, and let's face it, Hallett and the board, and that's everybody on the board, this is their second biggest decision, and they will be very conscious of getting it wrong again. And they were rushed with the Foster one because of the situation with Schumacher leaving. So for me, there must have been something in those early stages of those phone call discussions, whoever they might have been with, that sort of felt, we need to add him to the list for interview. I'd like to think it wasn't desperation. Like I've said, Leroy Rossini, I think, was definitely one of those candidates. Heckenbottom would have been another. Whichever the other, with Wayne Rooney, that would leave obviously then only one. We're not sure really who that might be. Let's just say hopefully it wasn't Lee Johnson that was brought up into the mix. So it is interesting. And personality, if we focus on that point, and you do a lot of work on the counselling side, just a plug there for Andy. But personality is so important, and at a club that's had such a togetherness with players, in the years that I've supported it, in the I'm 44 now, and the championship we went up last time, with Sturrock getting us to that sort of position. It's all about team bond and spirit, and that is perfect sort of scenario for any club, isn't it? And so the fact that is he came on board as someone that really sort of warmed to them, wants to really work with the club, wants to ensure that everybody is a part of it. I think in one of his own videos or pods he sort of said, all the way, anybody that does anything with the club, whatever role that is, he wants them to feel a part of it. And that is important, because of, like I said, with a certain person that we had before whose personality, just was non-existent. So, but it is that sort of win record, that 20% win record, that is the biggest concern, isn't it? But
Yeah,
you know,
people will look at that and they'll be worried about that, and rightly so, because I mean it wasn't brilliant at Birmingham. What he had to say about DC, the DC team, and also Derby County, I thought Derby were, they didn't play too badly under Rooney. They got a few points on the bar, but I think it's a bit unfair to judge someone who's up and coming as a manager, especially at Birmingham, a club that's in like turmoil, utter turmoil. And we yourself, Mike, we're a really well-run club. And I think Simon Hallett's got his finger on the pulse. Andrew Parkinson, he's done a lot of work with Liverpool in the past, and of course we've got Giesnip, who's been at Everton, and we got Nance, who's Mr. Argyle. We won't take Nance out of that, and I won't sort of diss him. But we've got a good team there. And by all accounts, the interview today on TalkSport they talked to Mick Phelan just before Simon Hallett came on, and he sort of wouldn't sort of look at the idea of coming down as a number 2 or as a second in command sort of thing.
Yeah, no, and I think that if you take that TalkSport interview, those that listened to the Mick Phelan one before, which was brilliant, an absolute legend as well, and just that question at the end, and just Mick just going, yeah, absolutely. I haven't got the word for word quotes, but I think it's like, that's interesting. And so on the Mick Phelan bit, we actually did talk about that in our group, and Wayne has stressed that, and it was on the Overlap podcast, which again, if you can dig that one out, it was back in February. We've shared it on the HB Source. I've shared it. It's about 8 minutes in. And he does discuss his issues at Birmingham and Derby, and it's going to be his opinion, and I've heard fans' opinions on that, as well, which counteract and say that he was never in training and all this sort of stuff, and certain parts of the coaching staff were in the pub all the time, whatever. But he did say that he never had the ability to build his own sort of backroom staff on people that he wanted, didn't he, Andy? I can't remember it word for word. A lot has happened since, but it's like, I'm not even sure if the likes of Andy Cole and all that lot that were there were his decision. And Americans love all the glitz and glamour. Tom Brady coming over is just nothing, and his investment, but to plug it in the States. They want to build the brand in America, and that's what their aim is. So if we can get Rooney in, and we can get so and so in, and so and so and so and so, what brilliant PR. But Rooney said there were just certain decisions he wasn't allowed to influence in any way. And as a manager, you've got to be able to get on and do the job, haven't you? If you restrict your manager, or they can't get the people that they want, that they trust and feel can make a difference, then you want to hide into nothing. Plus, also, he said the fans, didn't he, were sort of almost against it because, Eustace, who was doing well with them, we all agree, the most bizarre decision ever. And I'm glad, in the nicest way, that we don't have owners that run a club like that.
Americans, Mike, and the Americans, they do love all this glitz and glamour. They do like the big players, your Beckhams and all that sort of stuff, and your Rooneys. And I guess this is why Birmingham, this is why they bought into the English game. So the Glazers took over Man United, for instance. And this guy's taken over Birmingham. He knows nothing about football, but he just thinks, oh, I'm in for a quick buck here if I take over a football club and buy a football club. It didn't work for him, mate, because he didn't get respect of the fans, that the fans wanted him out, and it wasn't Rooney's fault, I don't think. He was just the person he wanted to have at the club at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so it goes back to my point, sort of on sometimes the two the manager, whether it's manager or player or the club, come together, and it just is a sort of a perfect fit. We won't know, of course, until we start getting into the games and the season and see what happens. But yeah, everybody can pit us down as relegation contenders. That's fine by us, because we'll just get on and do our own thing. So, but yeah,
Rooney's cutting his teeth, isn't he? Really, you think about as a manager, he's cutting his teeth with two teams. When Derby were a big enough side. Birmingham, you could say, they're a big side, but the wrong ownership. DC, I know very little about, but he's still cutting his teeth as a manager, and he does need someone beside him with a bit of experience. And I just think someone like Mike Phelan or Tim Huddleston will be right for him, a good fit for him, because it's a bit of wisdom there. It's a bit of knowledge about the game. Not that Rooney hasn't got knowledge about the game. He has, of course, he has. He's a top striker, scored at every level, But he needs that sort of bit of wisdom beside him, and that will sort of rub off on him and his personality as well.
I think that's where, either Tim or Tom, his other mate, one or the other of the Huddlestons. But I think that's where Mick feeling it's an interesting, because he has got more experience than anyone, and actually, if he's opening that up, that might have even caught Simon Hallett off guard, going straight on after him. But if you're Simon, you might be. They might have already had that conversation, folks. Obviously, to be fair, but you might be going in and saying, picking up the phone after that, going, Wayne, Mick Phelan, have you chatted to him about the position? It's like you'd be, as I drop my phone, you'd be wrong to not have a conversation about that. And what we don't want is, and what Wayne doesn't want, is to feel like someone's trying to pull the strings for him and tell him what to do. I'm not going to mention a certain name again, because I've sort of aired my views, but, sort of agree that there's good things, more good things than bad things there. But he's going to want to build that backroom staff. But the question I have, which has always led me to believe this is investment-led, and Simon Hallett, as a fellow follower on X, Marcus, pointed out to me on my TikTok account, is he gave a wry smile when investment was brought up, and he sort of said, well, there's nothing, it's not linked to that, or there's nothing in the pipeline. I didn't watch it, I only listened to it, so I missed that myself. But you can't, surely we can't afford, with the budget we have, to build some of the backroom staff with some of the names that are being touted, because I can only imagine their salaries are equally going to be exceptionally high. Is that something we can afford to do without investment, Andy?
No, I think you've got to give him a chance. He never had a window, as far as I know, at Derby, because he had the sanctions on him to do with the deduction, the points deductions and stuff. Couldn't bring players in. He didn't have that at Birmingham. He sort of left just before they offered the window.
Yeah.
So he hasn't actually bought a player, which ties in today. We've actually gone out and bought a player, or got a player, and his first signing.
So speaking of that player, as he appears on our screen, image kindly donated from the Argyle website. Thank you. So Nethaneul Ogbeta. I've not pronounced that right. Go on. So you give us a bit of a run. Well, actually, sorry, before you do that, I did have, if I can get my iPad to open up, I'm just going to quickly read out what the club effectively put out on him. But Nethaneul, 23, is a pacey left-sided defender who spent the latter stages of last season on loan to Bolton Wanderers, who he started the Sky Bet League One player final with. He was also released by Swansea City, which was where in his video his little connection with Whittaker comes in, which I'll mention in a minute. Following the conclusion of his contract on the 30th of June, he will then officially become a Pilgrim. And then, so born in Salford, Nethaneul began his career in the youth setup at Manchester City. Oh, Rooney's not going to like that. And then from the age of 10, he played on 12 occasions for City's under-21s in the EFL Trophy before departing the Etihad in 2021. Other destinations were Shrewsbury Town of League One, who he played 27 times in the remainder of that season there. And one of the games was against Argyle. And he does mention that in his video that he's played against us a few times there as well, where Shrewsbury, though, beat us 3-0. And he did score the third goal. So, that's at least, I don't know if that was a home game or not, but at least he can find a net. The following season, he added another 33 games at Shrewsbury and catching the eye of Swansea City, where he went thereafter. His time at the Swans was rather beset with injury. We don't need any more injured players. And he played just a handful of games. Addressing this, Nethaneul went on loan to Peterborough United and played regularly as the Posh reached the League One playoffs in 22-23 season, as well as the aforementioned loan move to Bolton that term. So Wayne Rooney said, and this is Rooney's first signing effectively, Nethaneul joins us from a good pedigree, having come through the ranks at Manchester City, and he also had successful spells at Bolton and Shrewsbury. He comes to Argyle looking to take a step up in the championship, up to championship level, on a consistent basis, and we believe he has all the attributes to become a pivotal member of the squad. He is quick, he's good on the ball, and provides balance on the left side of defence. I'm sure the fans will enjoy watching him play, and I look forward to welcoming him to the club. Blah, 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 blah. Director of Football Neil Dewsnip has said, I'm thrilled that Nethaneul's agreed to join us and become our first summer signing. The ball is rolling now, folks. That's the main thing. He is someone who we have been aware of for a while after producing excellent performances for Shrewsbury and yet more recently Bolton. He's good experience from such a young age, but still has plenty of room for growth and development, which is what we like to do. And he will complement our squad. The move is subject to EFL approval, but that effectively is a done deal. So, what else have you got to add and seen and thoughts on this player? Because I don't know anything much about him.
Do you know? I was just thinking, 10 years at Man City, coming through their academy. He's going to get the best coach in there because, I mean, Man City, not a very good side, are they, really? They haven't won a lot recently.
Certainly not on Sunday.
They've come through he's come through a major academy there and really done well. He's gone out on loan a couple of times. Yeah, Shrewsbury was a good loan for him. Last season at Bolton, he played 40 games, I believe, and he's a solid defender. He's got a lot of pace, but also he's... I sort of liken him a little bit to Michael Miller, but I fit Michael Miller. You think Miller's been out with injuries, ever so often with Argyle.
So Andy, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because Miller is out of contract.
Yes.
Miller is injury prone, and I like Miller. When I think he plays, he's proper. He's very sharp. He can put some really good crosses in. Just there's no one at the end of them because they can't catch up. And but he is behest with injury, but also. So do we think then Miller is likely to be kept on out of the two that are out of contract?
I hope so. I really hope so. I like Michael Miller, and I think he brings something to the game when he comes on. I mean, he's so quick and skillful on the ball. So he might be just like for like, if you like. So I don't think I can't see him sort of playing a big role, within the squad at the moment, apart from coming off the bench and maybe replacing. What's the boy called again? Or bigger or something, isn't it? But like for like, if he's got pace about him, then let him play and then bring Miller on for the last 20 maybe. So I could still see Michael Miller playing a part. I'm a bit more concerned about Galloway, whether Galloway's going to stay with us. I'd like him to stay with us.
Well, I think, and just before we go on to Galloway actually. So, folks, you should be able to comment on the post on X. We had Kevin who always joins us, who commented it while I was here on my own waiting for Andy to turn up. And then but you can go in there, post your comments. We will read those out and post them on. It's always good to engage, and some of the comments on these shows are always quite entertaining. So there is that there for you. Like we said, we're on YouTube. We've just started that YouTube account, so I'm just going to try and bring up if I click on the right thing. We just started that account, so that's also HP Source _podcast over on YouTube. Once we get up to 100 subscribers on there, we will also stream on that platform, and we also have a Facebook page that we started that we'll build upon and do that. And we will also start doing stuff with TikTok very soon as well. All got to build audiences on those platforms because there's restrictions to stream, and we'd love to get more people involved in these sessions and certainly start getting more comments and feedback from people. So, and if you go onto our Twitter post profile now, you'll see a link tree in there that has all the links to those relevant platforms. So, we've just had Kevin say the new signing has been given the squad number 22.
So number, wasn't that? Is that?
Say again, sorry?
Was that Galloway's number last season? No, he was 3, wasn't he? Sorry, beg your pardon.
Yeah, I don't know. So Kevin's put 3 exclamation marks. So Kevin, if there's that we haven't clicked as to why you feel that is significant, let us know. But on Galloway, my gut is telling me that Galloway's going to stay, and the snippet of feeling for that I believe is of evidence is his post of him and Wayne Rooney playing in, I believe it was a charity match. I think it was at well, I'm not going to say Wembley, but it was somewhere. And the fact that that went out so soon. Galloway. So there we go. So well done, Andy. You did get it right. Galloway was number 22. So that could just be a reshuffle of numbers if Galloway comes in. I mean, first and foremost, he was my best player of the second half of the season. He got over that injury problem and was consistent in the games. Absolutely solid, brilliant player. So his value would have, naturally gone up. But I really hope that he's going to do a deal with Rooney, because I think he's going to be an equally an important player. But they may already know that he's not going to sign, so we shall see. But yeah, I wouldn't like to see him go, Andy. To be honest,
we talk as well today, Mike, about a guy called Zach Jules from that lot up the road. I don't know how sort of firm that is as a rumor, but Zach Jules, as a young fan, is a bit of a journeyman as well.
What place is that up the road, Andy?
I can't swear online. I'm sorry, I can't say it, but it begins.
I don't want to have to go and put any explicit alerts on this video later. So good evening, Dan. Yeah, thank you for your comment. Any thoughts you've got, Dan, and anybody else, post them in those comments. I think there's like the Langstaff rumor as well, which looks like it turned out to be a bit of a
Shola Shortire. And I called him Shorty earlier on. But Shola Shortire. He's a Man United forward, again, come through the academy. If he scores goals for us, then fine. But I think, thanks, fella. Who said that? Kev. Yeah, thanks, Kev, for Herbie Kane as well. That's the guy at Barnsley. He scored a lot for fun. Yeah, thanks, Kev.
Yeah. Well, it does seem like the rumours are very strong on Manchester City defender Zach Jules. No, I can't do it. I think look, it's good. I think the official transfer window, am I right, opens. Is it tomorrow the 1st or is it Saturday? God, I'm losing track of the time, but day of the week. But yeah, I think that's good, and the fact that we're hearing noise already is what we're all looking forward to. Rooney is going to want to hit the ground, and clearly the club have data on players that they're watching, and no doubt as we speak this week have been sat down going through the options. And I hope Wayne's given his input and thoughts on that, because it's going to be his squad to build, and I stress his squad, with the assistance of Neil Joseph and that coming in, but we want him to be able to establish his team. So we've also had a comment from Dan again. So do we believe there are these are Rooney or recruitment earmarked these before? So I've just touching up on that. I think we might know a little bit more when they get interviewed or when Rooney speaks about them, Dan. I think the club would be silly to just not obviously just ignore players that they were watching. But I'd be amazed if they haven't sat down. The worst thing you do is you sign Wayne Rooney up and you go, oh, by the way, we got 2 players that are coming in the door at the end of the week. So don't worry, mate, they're pucker. So we definitely let's just assume that he has an involvement in that. What do you think, Andy?
I'd imagine there would have been conversation between Juslip and Rooney at this point, and I think they might have been targets of Wayne Rooney at Birmingham. We don't know. They said they had 5 targets of Birmingham they wanted to bring in. Who's to say that they weren't one of them or 2 of them?
Yeah. Well, that's. I think if we look at, you'd look at these and say the Nethaneul one, because I'm never going to be able to pronounce his surname, has those sort of youth links that Rooney sort of would have been possibly aware of, whereas Zach Jules might have been something that the club were more strongly aware of. When you look at the balance of where they were and where they are, where they come from, that possibly stacks up. I could be talking a load of rubbish, but that's my view. So, but yeah, it's exciting that we've got some signings rolling. I think that's a good thing.
And that's interesting in the chat again, Dan. Thanks for your chat, mate. Miller and Galloway must be off. Well, we're not sure at this point. I'd hope they wouldn't be off, mate. But you just don't know what Wayne's who's Wayne going to bring in. What sort of caliber of players going to bring in? Are we going to go for this United player? Do we have to sort of screw up the barrel to Exeter? I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I tell you what, I think when you look at it, when you consider obviously the staying up in the league and how important that is for a number of reasons, for any club to stay in the league that they're in at whatever level. The fact that we only had two players, and we'll come on to like Cooper and Whitaker in a second, but the fact that we only had two players that were out of contract, I think it was such an important thing, I think, Andy, isn't it, for the club? Because to suddenly have half a dozen players destabilise, getting their agents to find other clubs for them because, I can't deal with another Foster saga and I don't know what the club are going to do. And I can't wait on them to announce that, I need to secure my future. Fair enough. We're not faced with that situation. So we know we need to strengthen the squad, and do all that. And that seems to be what's happening now. But I think that was such an important situation for Argyle that they didn't have too many out of contract.
Looking back a couple of weeks ago, Mike, when we didn't have a manager in place and we had all these rumblings going on in the background about Heckenbottom, people like Whitaker, people like Cooper, people like Hardy might have thought, well, actually, there's no one at the club at the minute to talk to or to get me excited about getting on board next season. And then all of a sudden they appoint Wayne Rooney, and all this talk about Cooper going to Celtic and Whitaker could be off to wherever for X amount of million. It's pretty unsettling for the rest of the club. And then all of a sudden, you got a man with a profile coming in who people will probably look up to. Hardy will probably look up to because he's a striker. Whitaker will look up to because he's a forward-thinking player with a lot of skill. I wouldn't say he's in the same ilk as Rooney, but he's certainly got skill. He knows what the back of the net is.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just wondering who in the background picked this up, under our name. I mean, I'm going to take it off straight away. I mean, I did check, folks, and those that know of my mistake. I did check. I looked on the Tottenham, went on Google search. I mean, like their trophy cabinet, it just returned no results. So yeah, that player definitely doesn't exist. I'm going to lose my way now and trail of thought. But yeah, in terms of the other players, and I think if we go on to Cooper, then I think the Celtic rumours, is Celtic a good move for him? It is a big club. So, let's not kid ourselves. And so that would be a good move for him. Financially, it would be good for the club. It's obviously been touted that Wayne Rooney wants to keep him. I think that's a natural thing to say, isn't it? Because there's part of that where, it might inflate the value that might come in as an offer for him if the club is seen to obviously want to keep hold of someone who is an absolute diamond, brilliant goalkeeper. And it's great that he's a local lad as well. But yeah, what's your thoughts? Do you think Cooper will be here at kickoff season?
I find it really interesting because Rooney said in his own words that he wanted to get Mike Cooper on board, and his first signing was going to be Mike Cooper. Well, he told a little porky there, didn't he? Because he's setting this new boy, but it's not a problem. It's fine as long as you secure Cooper. I mean, I know he's away on Hollybops at the minute, isn't he? So he's probably thinking about his future. Wayne Rooney. Do you want to play for Wayne Rooney? A legend, England legend.
Well, we've said, and it's been discussed on many places, successful football players don't always make successful managers, and we understand that. I mean, if you've ever going to have wanted to have an A grade, degree in football management, the fact that he's worked with Sir Alex Ferguson is certainly going to teach you a lot. A lot of the game has changed. I mean, Mick Phelan said, didn't he, that the youngsters these days, some of them, I thought this was interesting, some of them don't even watch football. So they're either just gifted and then just get into the game and they see the glitz and glamour. I like Rashford, but he certainly is not setting an example of the likes of your Ronaldos and your Beckhams back in the day when they were big name players. But each their own times have changed. But I just thought that comment was just incredible. With that. So I think it goes back. I'm taking this a little bit off on a tangent, but Gaza. Fergie's biggest regret was not signing Gaza, and I think if Wayne hadn't have gone to Ferguson or gone to the likes of even Arsene Wenger, then, you know, really two brilliant managers of players. Wayne Rooney could have ended up the same way as we know some other youngsters that, you know, had huge potential. Chris, I remember Cherno Samba, for those that are on here. And yeah, you know, he was touted as the star back then, didn't he? And not to say that's a bad thing, but he ended up at Argyle, but his career literally just fell off the rails. Yeah. So with Cooper, as Dan has said, you know, was never going to Celtic. When was the last time Celtic spent 8 million quid? Other than the fact that my colleague, and a shout out to him, Dave Joyce, is a Celtic fan, I don't know. I'd have to ask him that next week when I see him. So Carl's also tuned in from Poland, saying sorry he can't join tonight. And thanks for the comment, Carl. We got 611 looking at the counter on. We've been 47 minutes in. I can talk for England, so hopefully that's not a bad thing. Well, I had to think on my feet at the start. What do we think then to our star goal scorer last season? You know, Morgan Whittaker had a bit of a off towards the end, you know, but I'm not going to be too harsh on him because, you know, he did that. Those goals absolutely helped save us. But what my gut says, he's not moving. And I've said it on the Spaces the other day, you know, congratulations to him and Rachel on your engagement. You know, fantastic news there. Lovely holiday away in Santorini. But yeah, is he staying, Andy, or is he going? And also, anybody else in the comments, is he staying or is he going? What do you think, Andy?
I think his relationship with Rooney in the past, you know, we look at him when he was at Derby, for instance, okay, and he was subbed off, okay, that happens in football. I just think he was a young, inexperienced player back then. We're talking about 2 or 3 years ago now. And what's he now? 22, something like that? So he would have been sort of 18, 19 back then. And I suppose that Wayne probably wanted to get the best out of him, and he wasn't getting the best out of him there. Now he is that sort of player who will give you goals, you know, plenty if you feed him the ball. I think towards the latter part of the season, he wasn't getting fed the ball, and the ball wasn't getting forward quick enough. You know, it was breaking down in midfield, and we were losing possession in midfield quite a bit. Yeah. I think, you know, if you've got creative players alongside him, feeding him, you know, letting him cut inside and letting him do his stuff, then he'll play. But I look at him and Hardy to the sort of end of last season. I saw 2 tired players there because they ran their socks off for the club. Absolutely ran their socks off. So yeah. I think he'll stay. I'm pretty sure he'll stay. I'd like to say, yeah, he's going to be an Argyle player next season. Be great if he is. And what I think I said on our last pod, that if you start building your team around the likes of the spine, you think of the spine, you think Cooper, you think Houghton, you think further up front, you think Whittaker and Hardy. That's just spine of the team. And then you just build around that because that's the strength. That's a strong spine there. You've got, you know, 4 quality players there.
Yeah, and I think Kevin's just said, you know, 100% staying. He loves it here, and he is loved, and gets it. And so this was with Nethaneul Ogbeta. He said that in his little video. I haven't watched the full Argyle TV episode, which I'm sure is on the app, but on the little clip that they put out on social, you know, he said he's worked with and knows a couple of ex-players that have played for us, and, you know, they spoke highly of the club. But he points out when Whittaker came back to Swansea, you know, and it's a really humbling comment because players are on big money and all this and all that stuff. Yeah. And, you know, if they've got talent and skill, then absolutely great. Don't complain about that at all. If we all had the skill and talent, we would be wanting to try and do the same thing. But the way he just sort of said that, you know, when Whittaker came back, he was distraught, you know, that he had left the club. And that's what I mean. And I've said earlier, you know, we discussed that, the importance of where a player or a manager can just fit with the right club. And Argyle, we would say, if those of you that are on here that aren't Argyle fans, yeah, we all think our club is special. And so, yeah, absolutely. But it's very much a community, our club, very fan-led. It's had a bit of a rocky spell with the can't remember his name, that we got rid of recently. But it just shows how much passion is there, you know, from everybody that, you know, for the club. And I think Whittaker knows that. And like Kevin's saying, you know, he loves it down here. So we would be stupid if we didn't have investment and we needed the money, because at the end of the day, you've got to work your assets. As you know, you got the personal side at times has to be parked, and that's when your business hat comes on, and you have to say there's an offer on the table. But at least Hallett or the club would say to Whittaker, what do you think? You know, the move that was touted, forget the club, Andy, during the January transfer window.
Lazio.
That to me, as soon as I saw that, I thought he's not going, because even Whittaker would look at that and go, not going over there. That wouldn't be for him.
He had a chance, didn't he, to go to Rangers for $3 million, and you know, at that time he was still at Swansea, unhappy, but he wanted to come back to Argyle because we gave him a chance. And I totally agree with what Dan said in the chat there about Whittaker being found out in the second half of the season. Yeah, because he hasn't got a right foot. I think he scored one, maybe two goals with his right foot, but the rest of that was all sort of left foot curlers, wasn't it? And, you know,
I think the thing where I was critical of Whittaker, and I think the lack of pizzazz and the destabilisation eventually, and I still say to this day, that Leeds game, extra time, you know, just wasn't something in the end that we could have done with. But they're just excuses, but in the end we sorted ourselves out. But he did, for me, when he was coming up against those quality defenders and opposition, where I felt critical of him was that and I think I might have said I'm not going to be critical of him, but just where I felt he was lacking is he just, unless he was running with the ball, he seemed to struggle. He didn't go in on challenges. He seemed to step back a bit, you know, and he wasn't brave enough. And I think what Rooney will do, you know, because clearly there's a star player there. I think what I'd like to see Rooney do with Whittaker is build some strength and aggression into the person. You know, I want to see when that drop ball where Rooney sort of was the opposition player thinking, if I try and go in for this drop ball, I'm going to get my leg broken. You know, that aggression that you can take out on the pitch, take out on the ball, take out on the opposition and score a goal. And I'd like to hopefully see him maybe bring some of that to Whittaker.
Sort of Rooney and his career. Rooney was a really creative player. I mean, he created a lot more as well, didn't he? And he scored lots of goals. And I'd just love to see Whittaker and Hardy in that sort of role. You know, Hardy, when he's one-on-one with a keeper, you know, 6 times out of 10, he'll score, you know. He's had one-on-one where he's fluffed his lines, but yeah, strikers do that. And I just like to see Hardy and Whittaker sort of both having that sort of get at them, you know, run at them, and it's like you say, chase back. If you lose the ball, chase back and fight for it, you know, and fight for your space.
Yeah, and speaking of, you know, Hardy and all the players, you know, I hope, because a lot of them had to put in a massive shift, and certainly, you know, Hardy's engine is just phenomenal. You know, just going on and going on and going on. You know, faced with difficult circumstances. So, absolutely, Jamie Stevens, thanks for your comment. Lots of nonsense rumours flying around at the moment. Transfer window isn't even open yet, other than free agents. Yeah, correct. So, you know, we're starting to see a lot more. That will come of that. Carl's put in another comment, guys. Obviously, you can see a few people are now doing that. You know, post your comments in the chat. We are only streaming on X. We've got 689, so just blown away with that. Really appreciate you coming on board. You know, I've put the ticker down at the bottom there. We have got on our Twitter profile our link tree. So when you open that, it will show you and take you to the options for the YouTube account. That's literally on ground zero. There's no videos on there. This will go up on that afterwards, but if you can go on there and follow that, if we get up to 100 subs on there, we can then stream to that platform as well, and equally the Facebook page that we have. So we want to equally enjoy this. I said at the start, we're not going to try and clash with other pods, you know, that do this, you know, Argyle Life being one of them, you know, really enjoy their content. So, you know, the aim is just to bring your own style of talk on football, because everybody loves to talk about it no matter what time of the day. So, you know, go and do that where you can. That'd be great. And, you know, you can also follow us on our own profiles. If I just stick that up there, and then you can, as that changes, there we go. You can see that. So Carl just obviously said Hardy was tired. We also had no threat from midfield, so both Morgs and Hardy struggled. You know, when Azaz left, that'll be good if we can find another Azaz out there, or even is there the potential to bring, sign him and bring him back? Again, a player that, was brilliant in the community as well with the, not St. John's, what was it? The charity. Anyway, forget off the top. St. Luke's, thank you, Andy. Just brilliant. Would love to see him definitely come back. So just sort of going in on a couple more comments. So Dan again saying, and I think he refers to Whitaker. He isn't brave enough. His work rate is poor, and I believe Premier League clubs generally teeth back in aren't interested. That is what I felt for me, Dan, as well, stopped them from sort of really going in for him. But, don't want to shoot hard on him because
in your comment, I totally agree with him, mate. They're not, they wouldn't fit his boots at all. But to sort of emulate what Rooney can do and what he can do, so I'd rather have them sort of being creative and not being aggressive in their play, but looking for spaces and creating space, creating chances. They'll never fill his boots because he was probably one of the best English strikers we've ever had,
Yeah, and that's where Andy, I think, sort of if Wayne can get his backroom staff right, will he get on and work with those forwards and those players like Whitaker and Hardy, and that will be sort of good to see. So look, it's some good, interesting things that will happen, I think, with players, and sort of another point on them, and I'm observant with this is that. There's only been a couple of players that have retweeted the welcome post. Read into that what you will. I'm not trying to sort of put out a conspiracy theory, but obviously Galloway, as we noted, did one photo of him and Rooney at a charity match. They're really good mates. And also Joe Edwards, absolute legend. That goal in that poster, I can't even get my hand the right way. Brilliant. He posted that soon after. I don't follow every player, most of them, but I haven't seen others do it. They're on their holidays. If you're Dan Scar living it up in Ibiza, we've probably all seen the video. Go out there and let your hair down. But I am a little bit surprised, Andy, that there hasn't been, because normally the club insists you've got to do a post. When the club posts, you've got to do that post or whatever. What's your thoughts on that, or just reading too much into it?
I think reading too much into it. You could look all over social media, and you look on his Twitter, you look on his Instagram, and you probably find that most of the players do follow him and do sort of like his stuff. And you're not going to get everyone liking him. Everyone's going to have their opinion. Like, we've got our opinion on him.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't go looking for that, really. We didn't have it much when Foster joined us. We had it more when Shuey sort of took over a bit, and he was on Twitter. He came off. So I don't think it really matters like that. It's
well, we certainly got a lot of engagement when Foster was sacked, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mentioned his name again. Sorry. Yeah, exactly, Dan. Yeah, I thought I'd bring up the point, Dan, because it also gives me something to talk about. I've noted it down halfway through, actually, and I think for me this is important because the bloke is a legend at the club, has been with us for a while. Of course, I'm referring to Kevin Nance-Scaville. The lovely photo of him and Rooney together, after the signing. And so, it's clear that there's going to be a place within Rooney's squad for him there. And just imagine when he does if he gets a few more big name players that come in his backroom stuff, you turning up on the first morning back at pre-season as Kevin Nance-Scaville, you look in the room and you go, yeah, it's not a bad morning, is it? Start to the season, folks.
Mick Whelan, what's that Huddleston doing here? Oh, crumbs. It's going to be great for Nance because he's been through the club like thick and thin. Even the dark days, the dark days when we nearly went out of business, he was there. He was, he's great. He's just a legend, isn't he? Deserves so much better. Glad he's at our club. I'm glad he's Argyle through and through. Got green blood, and I hope that sort of enthusiasm that he's got will just sort of rub off on Rooney a little bit and the rest of them.
Yeah, and Dan's absolutely right. That there were two legends in that photo. Absolutely, Rooney met one, and Kevin met one.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it'd be good. It'll be good. So So we've just scraped over the hour mark. I'm just sort of checking through my notes again. Thank you everybody for joining in. Please give us all a follow. Like I said, Carl can't join us tonight. He's on holiday, but you can see along the bottom of your screen all the Twitter handles that associate to us. And today I made sure I got my, before coming on, that I did, or last night, whenever it was now, set my Twitter handle correctly to the Crazy Pilgrim from my old one. So now I relate across all my channels, including TikTok.
Do you look out as well for the Grumpy Loyal? He's on Top Tick. He's a funny boy, but he's a bit of a laugh. Anyway,
exactly. Plug our own channels, but look, no, appreciate the share and post. If you enjoy the session tonight, then what we're going to aim to do is obviously we'll sort of give a bit more build up as we get into the season. We're going to aim to do a session a week. Should really be at a similar time on Thursday at 8:30. What we also will look to do, whether or not we'll do it as a live, but looking by the reaction, we may well do that. But it's equally the sort of fans coming on and engagement is important to us. But we can bring people into this platform. You don't have to show your face. You can talk and mute your camera. But we are going to do some stuff on the England Euros and see how we do there. Who knows? We might get into another final. But as Andy's dog comes in to join the session. But yeah, so we're probably gonna do it after the first England game is on the Sunday, I believe. So our first session will be probably on the Tuesday because there's a big France game in the evening on Monday. So join us and we can sort of see how England fared up in their first game, what our thoughts are, and we'll do that for as long as England stay in the tournament. Whether I think what do you think, Andy? The chances for us? I know, bearing in mind you're not, as I just suddenly clicked, an England fan. You're more leading up towards the north there, but what's your view anyway on England's chances?
I think we've got a good chance. We've got just as good a chance as anyone else. It depends on what team he feels on the day, really, and if the players want to play for him. It's a shame about Rashford.
And playing players in the right position.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's got to play the players in the right positions. Of course, like last season with Argyle, you play your players in the wrong positions and you don't get very far.
No, Phil Foden. That's the one I'm sort of referring to. Dan's going for the semi-finals. So I think
Scotland won it. I think Scotland are going to go win it this year.
And Wales. Oh yeah. No, let's not make that Sunak mistake.
I'll put my hand up and I'll be perfectly honest with you guys here. I'm more of a club person, so Plymouth Argyle through and through. Internationals, I can sort of give or take if I want to watch it, but it doesn't really interest me as much as Argyle do, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. No, I think it's always good. It's good to have it before the football season starts, because it gets everybody going. It's good for the economy because all the retail hospitality, can earn a few quid, which is much needed out there for sure. So yeah, no, looking forward to that. So we are going to do. It will either be a Spaces or, like I said, we may do this live for it. But at least we'll aim to do something at least once a week with what we do, Argyle related. If there's any breaking news, then obviously we'll jump on and bring that. Generally, from a breaking news point of view, probably Spaces because lots of opinions and we can get people into that very quickly, and we can just jump on and get that set up. So that's the plan. We look to sort of bring you some more content. Whether it's previewing a game, we want to sort of like share some sort of lineup suggestions, some stats. We'll put some images on to try and make it a little bit more interactive for sure. So we'll do that in an equally post game, and when we hopefully are sort of seeing some good early wins to negate the Wayne Rooney situation out there, or help the Wayne Rooney situation. Dan, thank you for joining us and putting some comments in.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, we'll definitely get some more of them. I think as we build with the YouTube, people tend to like that platform to comment on. Twitter can be a bit of hit and miss for certain people. The comments appear, they don't appear, and all that jazz. So, yeah, look, I think Absolutely blown away. 812 people live, an hour and 6 minutes. I've talked too long. Andy, been great having you on. Andy will join us as well in future pods, as well as others.
Mike, quick plug for Argyle, actually.
Yep.
At this point, the Euros are coming up soon, and Home Park will be showing the Euros. I guess it's going to be in their sort of
Yes.
So get along there. Support the club as well, because every time you go to watch a match, you're going to support the club. Yeah, it's going to put some money into the club.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout, actually, and we might do that. See what our availability is like, and maybe turn up for that one. And it's with some associations that we're looking to work with, also do some sort of interviews that we can then share. At the end of the game when we do our debrief, so our post-match summary. So, but other than that, Andy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Good to see you tonight, mate. And thanks to everyone for jumping in.
Yeah, likewise. So, have a good evening, folks, and a good weekend, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Right, take care, guys.